How's everybody doing today?
Hello.
How you doing, Sarah? How you doing, Jed?
Welcome.
Good, good. How's it going?
I'm good. I'm good. Thanks for dialing in today. Dialing. I don't know why I always say that. I can't stop saying that. What's up, chat? Let us know where you're dialing in from.
Yeah.
Are you on a dial-up modem? Are you on broadband or fiber? You watching on YouTube like a normal person? I'm super pumped for SDR week here. As you can tell, it's a
Me too.
Mad Men theme, so we thought we'd get dressed up and then not tell Jed because we wanted to make him look like a jerk. Seriously, sorry
Right.
about the lack of notice, buddy. So Sarah, why don't you kick us off with the intro? Tell us what we're going through this week.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, as Colin said, welcome to SDR week. Super exciting. Veronica's telling me that I am too tilted to the right on YouTube. Okay.
Okay, I can
Tell
do that.
me,
No,
is
you
this
stay there. I'll fix it.
okay? Okay, cool. So yes, welcome to SDR Week. Super exciting. We've got a bunch of really incredible guests that are going to share best practices, things that they've tried, things that they've discovered, all that kind of stuff. And then we're also going to take a look at your submissions for all of those categories for the SDR championships. So that's super, super exciting. I know we've got submissions from every corner of the world, and we're going to tackle the email templates today in the latter half of our first session here with Jed. So yeah, a little bit more about our very first session here. So we are chatting to Jed Marley from PandaDoc. So his topic today is going to be obsessive email experimentation, the pathological mindset for crushing cold email. So he's going to tackle that. Any questions that you guys have specific to stuff that Jed is going to be chatting about, pop them in that YouTube chat. Colin always does a great job at pulling those out. He'll ask Jed, make sure they get answered. If you guys do have any questions that are not quite specific to the topic, push those over to that Slack channel. And myself, Colin, Jed, whoever that question is for, will make sure to answer it. But we want to make sure that the questions within the session are really, really specific to the topic. So without further ado, let me introduce our lovely guest. So Jed is currently the top producing outbound SDR at PandaDoc. In the second half of 2020, Jed had over 701K in TCV sourced, averaging around 185% of his quota. So this is definitely somebody that you want to learn from. Additionally, Jed creates the outbound playbook to develop and scale the team at PandaDoc. He leads several team-wide prospecting trainings and has even started his own weekly newsletter, Practical Prospecting. So sign up for that. We'll make sure we drop your link in the chat for you. And yeah, if you follow that newsletter, you can join over 700 readers and get access to Jed's experiments and actionable prospecting strategies to break through the noise. Jed, thank you so much for joining us today on SDR Week.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you, Sarah. That was an awesome intro. Appreciate it. I can just give a little bit more of a background on myself too. Basically, for today, just wanted to touch on a few points, I guess, for what I think it means to have kind of a pathological mindset, I guess, for crushing cold email and going into that. And then I'll share a few templates that I'm using, as well as a few examples. But as far as just like a quick bit of background on myself, I joined PandaDoc. We're like an all-in-one proposal and e-signature software. Joined right out of high school, actually. Knew I wanted to get into startups through this program called Praxis. It's kind of like a self-development program that hooks you up with a growing startup. So joined as a contract, worked my way up from contractor to SDR, and then recently just got promoted to team lead of the SDR outbound team. So super fun time right now. We're growing, just working on a lot of, outbound, playbooks, as Sarah said, experimenting with emails. And then obviously along the way have built this newsletter. And so, yeah, I mean, that's what I'm going to be talking on today. A lot of my success has come from just experimenting with different types of emails, A/B testing, and really just pulling in different ideas from various, areas of content I consume and, things of that nature. But yeah, let's dive into it.
Cool. And just before we jump in, just want to say
Yeah.
hey to chat. Thanks to everybody for joining in. I see a couple of regulars in there. People are enjoying the 50s, the Mad Men theme. That's sort of what we were shooting for. And yeah, it's the first time I've worn a tie probably since my wedding. So it did take
Oh
me
boy.
like, we were probably a minute late. I think we were a minute late pushing the stream live because I had to run tie 10 minutes before and it took me 11 minutes. So good to see everybody. We got a good contingent from our Mexico team and Vancouver team. I hate everybody there. Sandra, Jose, Travis, Sebastian. Good to see you, buddy. Thanks for hanging out. And Lisa. All right. Thanks everybody. Let us know where you're dialing in from. City, state, country. Are you in your hanging out at your home office? Are you actually in an office like some of us, like Jed up here?
Yep.
And most certainly
in the
not
office.
an attic.
Definitely not an addict.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm up in Detroit, so if anybody's in the Michigan area, drop it in the chat. It's awesome.
Cool. And Sarah and I are in Vancouver. I'm rooting on, is tomato loose or is tomato hanging out?
Tomato is on the other side of a fence. I have just blocked off this area of the house so that we don't have to deal with any of that.
Cool. For reference, Tomato's probably the cutest dog, or definitely the cutest dog that's ever been on stream. All right, cool. Back to you, Sarah.
Back to Jed.
Jed.
Let's get it started.
Yeah, so I guess a few brief points to touch on as far as what I think it means to be, have the pathological mindset for cold emailing. Number one is just kind of like reframing your job and viewing it as a life skill. And so the reason why I bring up this point is basically, I got into sales and being an SDR, and I think a lot of people in this way are similar. They have an entrepreneurial mindset. They want to learn about sales. They want to, maybe eventually start their own business one day. So I think of being an SDR and cold emailing is a really transferable skill into whatever career you want to go into. And so, with that mindset, I feel like if you don't have that thinking beyond the scope of, I'm just sending out emails, trying to book meetings and make money for this company I'm working for. If you don't have that internal mindset as like, this is a life skill, this is something that's going to help, written communication, my relationships with others, and a transferable skill, it's hard to apply the tactical strategies if you don't have that why behind it. So that's why I kind of bring up that point, reframing it as a life skill. And then the next point too that I just wanted to touch on is stealing ideas from the people that came before you, people just on LinkedIn, top performers at your company. There's lots of tactical ways to go about doing this, right? So, whether you're listening to podcasts, LinkedIn posts, we've all seen the LinkedIn leaders posting, screenshots of emails. I'm always capturing pictures of those. If I see something in a book, I'm capturing that and saving it in kind of like an organized notes file so that I can apply those at a later date. So basically, and then again, just looking at the top performers, right? So one thing I try to do is like at the end of each week, find a couple of the top performers at my company, look at some of the opportunities that they've created, and then just try to break down each email they sent, right? Go into my Salesforce or whatever CRM you're using, and just break down like what are the emails, what are all the touch points it took to get that opportunity, and then stealing those ideas and trying to, apply them in your own practice.
I love that, Jed. And just like chat, throw one in chat if you've stolen a great idea from one of your colleagues, coworkers, or somebody on LinkedIn. It's such an important piece of like, I love that you're just screenshotting them because that information can be so transient. And just, I remember I used to have like an Evernote folder or an Evernote, I don't know what it was. I just copy and pasted stuff into Evernote and like OneNote, and it was just a huge copy paste of like, here's the things that I've seen working. Or I would go and talk to our engineers back when I was selling generators, and I'd talk to a customer and they'd like say something. I'm like, oh, stop, hang on. I got to write down exactly like word for word how you said that, because I'm going to use that in one of my calls.
Yeah, I love that. Trying to use like, the customer's language, right? Sometimes, send an email if you have like a targeted prospect. Give that email to like your director or, your VP if you have that kind of relationship, and say, hey, what are your thoughts on this kind of thing? And another thing I'm trying to do too is like make it a point, like reach out to somebody on LinkedIn, another SDR, account executive, somebody who's like doing the job on a daily, and just like share your cadences or your sequences with one another. Like, hey, like, share ideas and kind of make that a point to do that on a consistent basis. That's where I learned a lot of the stuff that I apply today. And so, most people are willing to take a quick Zoom call and exchange ideas, things of that nature.
Very cool. Shameless plug, Slack community. If you're listening live and you're looking for people to share ideas with, you want some feedback on something, Mero will throw the Slack link in there. You jump in there afterwards. We'll jump in and give you some feedback on other tips and templates. And yeah, shameless plug.
Totally.
Cool. So you've talked a little bit about sort of the like stealing ideas. You talked a little bit about, and I love how you framed it up as a life skill. This is one of those things that might sound like bullshit, and I strongly disagree. Like I'm the co-founder, co-CEO here, and I started my life as a salesperson. I spent years in retail, and I remember hearing people say, "Oh, sales skills, super transferable." I wasn't quite convinced. And then I got into my next job, which was an account executive position. I was like, "Oh yeah, this actually transfers." And now sitting here as founder CEO, the like sales is such a huge part of the role, and it also is nearly exactly the same process as customer development, as running a podcast. As if you learn these frameworks, the soft skills that you're going to learn in the sales development role, in the account executive role, are going to have transferred for me specifically to almost every single thing I've done.
Totally. Yeah, no, definitely agree with that. Yeah, I mean, in the last one too, it kind of goes with the last point that I was going to touch on before we dive into some of the templates that I wanted to share, was just being methodical and organized, right? So again, it goes into saving everything in notes and just A/B testing, and listening to the data, right? There's lots of great sales blogs that put out like, hey, like, like Sales Loft, for example, I'll look at them, or, some of those people where they're breaking down like actual data from all the emails that have been sent out from your system. Like if you don't know where to start with your testing, grab those. Like they've tested it so much, they've done so much research. Use that as a starting point for your testing, because not everything's going to work in every industry or situation, but it's a good place and a good starting point to kind of listen to the people that have the data.
Mm-hmm. And Sales Loft has that great research that I think I go back to it at least once a month with was it 200 million emails, 200 million emails or something like that they looked at?
Yeah, Gong too. I mean, there's just a lot of great sales blogs that they look at that research, and yeah, super great resource.
And just another shameless plug, because apparently that's nobody told me to do this, but I'm remembering these links that might be helpful. If you want to double click on the Sales Loft thing, we had it wasn't Russ. I'm getting Sales Loft and Boast mixed up. But our first Own Your Growth conference, Jeremy Donovan, thank you. Yeah, and we had he did an amazing presentation walking through some of that data, and he went a little bit deeper on some stuff that I hadn't seen. Phenomenal. So we'll make sure we get that linked in the bottom.
Yeah, Jeremy Donovan is awesome. I follow him on LinkedIn. There's so much cool data that he's putting out. But yeah, I mean, that's it for my points as far as kind of having that mindset for cold emailing. Is it cool if I screen share real quick and we can dive into some of the templates?
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Give me 1 sec.
Yeah, it's going to look a bit strange. YouTube, just bear with me a half second here. I'm just going to create a new, because you're going to see this all funny. So bear with me a couple seconds. Display capture. Yep. And new one. And yes, I talk to myself all the time. All right. I think YouTube can see what you're seeing. Yeah, we're good to go.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm seeing, because it looks like it's frozen on my end. The slides are not. Are you seeing the slides on your end?
I can see the slides, but they're definitely grayed out.
Yeah. Let me. Sorry about that. I don't know why it's not popping up. That is strange.
Try refreshing the page.
Apologies.
That's okay.
Oh, good.
I'm just going to refresh it on mine.
Cool. While you're doing that, Jasper was asking what camera and mic are you using for the live stream. This is a Shure SM7B. And then I'm a dad and I like taking pictures of my kids. So I have a Canon EOS RP behind there with a 28 mil lens that I actually found in a pawn shop.
Nice.
A couple $100. And yeah, I got the RP around Christmas time because a friend of mine owns a camera store. And so I was like, yeah, I wanted to take decent pictures because I looked at all the previous pictures I'd taken of my kids and they were all blurry because they're moving so quickly. and they all were like ghosting. So I was frustrated by that. But it looks like we got this rocking and rolling. So
It looks like it. It's starting to load. My MacBook Air is a little bit slow, but I think that we're getting it.
Zoom will do that to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, my MacBook sounds like an airplane taking off sometimes, just trying to open up slides.
I had that exact same computer. I think Sarah might currently have that exact same computer.
Mm-hmm. Sure do.
Oh, wow, why this is not popping up?
Technical difficulties. Has anybody been on a demo when you're like just about to show the client something, and then your computer's like, "Hey, guess what? Yeah, I'm gonna just sit in the loading bar for 10 minutes." I remember in the early days when we were selling carb, every time I would sit there with the engineers and we'd like work on something, it would work beautifully. And then as soon as I went to show somebody, nothing.
Yeah.
I got to the point where I was like, you know what? The software itself is about the value that it's going to help you achieve. It's not about what it looks like, because if we can achieve this goal, right? So it just, honestly, it forced me to be a better rep, because I was just talking about the benefits of it. And I'm like, why does it, and people would ask me like, hey, can I see a demo? I'm like, well, how much does it matter what it looks like? Right? Like, it doesn't matter what color it is. All it matters is if it achieves the goal or not. And you're going to have that data in a couple of weeks time, like after your reps are using it. It's very difficult to sort of see the value just by looking at a couple of screenshots.
Totally. Yeah, it looks like I have the slides finally pulled up. Yeah, I guess I'll dive into kind of what these templates are. This one is probably a little silly if you look at it. Some people might laugh. It's funny. I remember reading the Predictable Revenue book by Aaron Ross a while back, and this is kind of something that I stole sort of from there, like an idea. Basically, they were using very like simple, straightforward email templates to kind of do account mapping. But basically, I'm booking about 3 meetings a month from this, and I'm using it later on in the cadence, maybe when things are a little bit more automated. There's a more personalized version of this that I'll show as well. But pretty much it's just who's the best person at your company to talk to about blank. And, blank is obviously whatever problem you solve, whatever benefit you provide, things of that nature. And I think when you're creating cold emails, it's about just trying to distill it, trying to get rid of words that aren't necessary. And this email template kind of takes it to an extreme, in a sense. And so I have a couple examples that I can provide there.
I mean, how dare you not provide add the Canadian touch of "sorry to bother you"? I mean, I used that almost exact same template, but
yeah,
that's the sort of Canadian prefix, the Canadian version, you might say.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's just a starting point, but yeah, I mean, these are, literally just examples like this, it'll be this, in this example, it was like the 4th email I sent out, just who's the best person there to talk to about, e-signatures and proposal processes is obviously what we do at my company. But the cool thing about this is, you're going to book a few meetings. You're going to get more referrals. People will see that and they'll be like, okay, like lots of times cold emails are pretty confusing, right? Like there's a lot of friction. This removes all the friction. So if they're going to respond to your emails, they're going to respond to this one. And so, even more referrals. These are examples of just getting referrals. But my favorite part is that you get, few meetings, few referrals, but you're getting a lot more no's. And a lot of people that say not interested, no thanks. Mm-hmm. And why I think that's important, like kind of later on in the sequence is, how often you see super low reply rates later on in the cadence. And would you rather have somebody that's just not opening your emails at all and not responding, or, getting a no, it's something to work with, or you can get them out of your funnel. So that's kind of my thought process in there, even more no's.
Sir, I know you have a team of SDRs that you're coaching, and I know you at one point were an SDR. What are your thoughts on this approach here?
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. I'm with you, Jed, 100% that you've got to keep it really, really short and sweet and to the point. Any extra words is just, as you're saying, friction. It makes it more time consuming to read that email, more annoying potentially to read that email. And it makes it more unlikely that that person is going to read that email. So getting straight in with what you want to know, I think is super important. I think, yeah, great approach. I'd love to try this. I think we're doing something similar to this, but really going for the referral rather than
Yeah.
like we're doing it as like a referral approach on purpose rather than just like incorporating this into the regular non-referral approach. So I'd love to see
Right.
this later in the sequence.
I love it as like because what I think you're saying, Jed, is this is a late stage follow up instead of just like bump one more email or the alligator email. Like, is there a hippopotamus in your office? Like, not again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead, Jed, and then I got a question.
Oh, sorry. No, I was just going to say to what Sarah was saying. Sometimes, I'll even look on LinkedIn, and if they haven't responded to my first few emails, I say, hey, is blank the best person to talk to about X? So it's kind of like the going for the referral part of it more. Obviously, it takes that extra step of doing the research, but since I've seen success with that as well.
Very cool. And these were hinted at. I don't think Aaron gave them away in predictable revenue, but I remember trying to like piece them together because he intentionally didn't want to be like, here's the template to use, because then everybody would use that template. But I think if you pieced it together, this is what came out of the original book. So chat, throw a 2 in chat if you've used this template or a template very similarly. I will say one of my favorite things about this is that it's counter to almost every sales email that I get right now. And it was funny because I think this was the only email I received, the only prospecting email I received for like 3 years. And now everybody seems to have forgotten it. And now they're back to blah, 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 my product, blah, 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 you're the right fit, blah, 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 let's book a time to meet. And I'm like, you're making all these assumptions. And, as my grandfather, as my papa would say, when you assume, you make an ass out of you and me. And he would say it exactly like that. And so I had to. But it drives me crazy. Like, I feel like the cold emails I'm getting in terms of quality has gone from like reasonable quality to like barely passable. And I'm not including all the ones that end up in my spam box that are clearly just somebody trying to sell me Viagra or, that didn't look at anything and just blasted me on a list of 1,000. Sandra is asking, where in the sequence is this email? And Tyler is a huge fanboy, loves the emails and everything about you. So
Shout out Tyler.
Yeah. So Jed, what step in the sequence is this?
Yeah, so later in the sequence, like I said, I don't necessarily say there's a hard rule to win, but I'd say, if you're personalizing the first few emails, then maybe, make this as an automated like 4th or 5th email that goes out, right? So typically it'll be like 1 email and then like 2 additional emails on the same thread. And then maybe this is that next email on a new thread kind of thing, or the 3rd thread. Yeah, I mean, and I like combining it with a call, and then this gets sent out right after the call is logged, if you're using like a sales engagement platform.
Very cool. I want to do a time check here because we've got another 4 or 5 minutes here until we want to transition into looking at the templates. And chat, get ready because this is when we're really going to need you and your feedback, because the 3 of us can make a call. I mean, we all know me. I'd be happy to just make the call by myself and not listen to anybody's opinion. But we want to include you in this process, right? This is SDR week. This is not what Colin thinks about email templates week. Although I did pitch that to the marketing team and they thought it was a great idea, but they thought this was better. So maybe we'll do that next quarter. So I'll shut up and let Jed get back to his slides here. And then in about 5-6 minutes, chat, be ready because we're going to get your feedback on some email templates we got coming up.
Awesome. Yeah. This next one. So the next one is basically an email template that's a response to an objection. And I kind of have 2 versions of this. But basically, if you're an SDR, right, the way I try to think about things is, we're all getting objections all the time, whether that be through email, through the phone. So try to break it down into like, what are the responses that I'm hearing more than once? And then come up with the best possible response to that, right? So if you're using something like, Outreach, Sales Loft, whatever, you can create templates and then create 2 different templates that's a response to a certain objection. Like in this case, we already have X or your competitor. And then test which one works better. And then next time that objection comes up, you don't have to think about your response. You don't have to waste time. What's the best possible response to that. You can plug it and move on to the next one. So I try to have that general philosophy with things, not just email, but like, as far as looking at the whole, SDR or prospecting job as a whole. But this one here is just, no worries. Something like, I'll say like, no worries. Sounds like you're all set right now. Would it be a ridiculous idea to explore if you're getting everything you can out of, X competitor? And then insert a relevant customer, they're seeing benefits X and Y things. So this one, I guess the reason why it works for me is it's kind of going for no, right? Like, would it be a ridiculous idea? Getting them to kind of challenge the thought. And obviously you're going to plug in some benefits that are an advantage on that competitor. And then there's a less aggressive approach to that. If you're selling software, often, things are on a 1-year contract. So there's renewals coming up every year in many cases. So this is kind of going for a renewal follow-up date. It's the same kind of thing. It's just less aggressive. It's, sounds like you're all set right now. We're a little different from your competitor in X, Y, and Z ways. So just confirming, like bringing that wall down, like, you're set right now. Like, I'm not trying to book a meeting or anything. And then just genuinely saying like, hey, this is how we differentiate. Would you be opposed to exploring this around the time of your renewal? It's a super soft ask. And I get a lot of people that are like, yeah, you know what, like reach out to me in 6 months. You set a follow-up date. And I'm probably booking like 1 or 2 meetings just from follow-ups from this template that I've sent, back in the 6 months ago or so.
I love that. It's such a great little, like, last thing. All right, chat. Here's a masterclass in, can you pick out what book that previous template came from? I think we've probably talked about it if you listen to the stream or the podcast. I think I bring it up on almost every podcast or stream.
Yeah.
But it's a pretty obvious one. Let me know in chat if you know what it is.
These were just some examples. I guess we can skip this for sake of time if you want to get to the last one. The last one is a bit of a strategy behind the email template. Is it cool if I dive into that real quick, or do you guys want to jump to the?
No. We can take a few more minutes. Sebastian was the winner, picking out never split the difference right away. Didn't even give anybody else a chance. It's a little unfair because Sebs used to work here and was part of the book club when we read that book. So, I mean, good job, Sebs. I'd also be very disappointed if you didn't get that right away.
So this last email template, I have, I guess, a little bit of a strategy behind it. So if there's like maybe 5 accounts I want to reach out to, right? I might message, 3 to 5 like SDRs, account executives, and just say, hey, like salesperson, just curious, like, what are you guys currently using right now for, whatever product you sell, or what does the process look like for this? And then maybe I'll like endorse some of their skills. But what I found is that, like, salespeople genuinely like to help other salespeople. And so if you come across as genuine, like just trying to, get some idea of what you guys are currently using to see if we can actually help, you can take that information and obviously reach out to, the decision maker there. So this is something I'll do. I'll typically get like, 25 to 50% reply rate from like these individual contributors that I'm reaching out to on LinkedIn. And then, find the decision maker, give them a call, leave them a voicemail, and shoot them an email all at the same time. I call this like a triple. This is something I got from Justin Michael, which I would recommend checking him out on LinkedIn. He's got awesome content. But basically the idea is just, 3 touch points in as little time as possible to try to get their attention. So the voicemail will typically kind of look like, hey, just had a conversation with one of your reps. Sounds like you're using, X right now. I'm going to send over an email that I think you'll find relevant. Subject line, my voicemail. Let me know your thoughts. I don't like to use the rep's name, obviously, but just having that information is valuable. And then you're sending that email, subject line, my voicemail. The opener is, hey, just spoke with one of your reps. Sounds like you're using X or Y to accomplish, whatever problem. Opening here in an unconventional approach that customers, relevant customer, insert there, are using to improve this process. So kind of like a quick email, you can send that. Obviously, I try to keep my templates kind of short so that there's room for personalization or adding a couple extra things. But, this has worked pretty well for me, just from having that social proof of talking to a rep. You think of, like say a VP of sales or whatever, if you're reaching out to the opening line of an email saying I spoke with one of your reps, that might catch their attention. And obviously if that rep or that IC gave you any indication of pain, super helpful. And yeah.
I love that. It's and I'm trying to blank on the podcast I did with him, but it was somebody who took Aaron's method of like the top down and asking for the referral and sort of inverted it. And it was probably one of the first 20 podcast episodes I did. And the name will come back to me and I'll throw it in there. But basically, I love that you're you're looking for new information and you're trying to
Right.
source that in the organization. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Because you're bringing real value in this email. You're doing research. You're saying, hey, I see you're trying to do this. Did you know you could be doing it a little bit differently? I just love that approach.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of where I'm trying to think of it, not just general personalization, but you're trying to come at them with, hey, look, I did my research on you. I spoke with some people at your team. This is why I think it might make sense for us to chat. What are your thoughts? And then combining that with the triple approach, making it impossible for them to miss your email. You called them, you left them a voicemail. Your email is subject, my voicemail. So they're going to see it, and it usually gets high open rates and pretty good response rate. Yeah, I mean, I have a bonus template that I can dive into. Or if you guys want to jump into the email template submissions, we can take it whatever way you want to get going.
Yeah, why don't we do you have a link for that takeaway that you can share with us here? We can drop it in chat. People can take it as a takeaway.
Yeah, I can definitely share the slides and some other information I got for sure.
Fantastic. Okay. All right. So what are we going to do? All right, I think I'm just going to throw the slides up here, and I think you guys won't be able to see them, but Sarah's in there. Jed, are you in there as well? Oh, hang on.
Yes, give me 1 second. I'm hopping in there.
Okay. So chat, this is the moment we've all been waiting for. This is why you're here. I need you to be the most active chat we've had in the last 1,000 years. Because we've got 3 or 4 email templates, or 3 or 4, we're going to look at, and we need your help. Like I said, I'd be happy to make the call, but I'd probably make the wrong call without your help. So let me know what you like, what you don't like, what would you improve about these, and then at the end we're going to go through all of them. Let's talk about favorites, what we like, what we don't like, and then at the end we'll get you a chance to vote, sort of 1, 2, 3 kind of thing. Sound good? Are you ready? Type a 1 if you're ready. Just let me know you're listening, you're alive. You're not like off making yourself lunch somewhere. All right. This first one's coming in. Sarah, do you want to alternate these?
Yeah, let's do it.
Go for it.
Okay. So this first one here we have from Frankie King. Subject line, a cold email. Hi, so-and-so. You probably get an absurd amount of cold emails every day, so I'll be brief. Our proprietary data predicts, prioritizes, and contextualizes consumer trends with a degree of accuracy, over 89%, that's never been seen before. After trying every new trend innovation capability on the market with limited effectiveness, P&G, Kraft, Heinz, Danone, J&J, McDonald's, and SC Johnson turned to Black Swan in 2020. They trust our data and foresight expertise to power a single thread of consumer understanding across innovation, marketing, and category strategy. Just want to leave you with one question. Do you feel you have everything you need to ensure you aren't missing any opportunities at company? Best, Frankie.
Ooh, this is a good start. I like that he's name dropping. I did find it a bit long. I like these name dropping. I love the last question. Jed, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing that stood out to me was just the fact that they're calling themselves out. This is a cold email as the subject line. I've never tried that before, but I think that it could potentially work. It's a pattern interrupt. And I really like the, most people are asking for time, or is this relevant at all? They're asking him a question, which, if that question hits, I can definitely see that, being a good call to action. I might try to make that last question just a little bit more targeted, maybe. I guess it seems a little bit vague, but overall, I think the email is really solid.
All right, and let's go to chat. Lynn, what do you like about this? Do you like the CTA? What would you change? What would you improve? Is it too long, too short? And let's go to Sarah while you're all throwing your answers in there.
Yeah, I love a bit of social proof. I think it's always a great move to put that in there. Obviously, this company that Frankie's working for is working with some like huge names. So there's a lot of good logos for Frankie to leverage here, which is awesome. And for you guys out there who are going to adopt a template like this, I would say pick that social proof that is really going to resonate with that prospect. So thinking like, for instance, you may not be able to name drop all these different types of customers if you're reaching out to a customer that specifically is, I don't know, like McDonald's, who obviously we all know what they do. They're fast food. So maybe I wouldn't reference like P&G to McDonald's. I might reference, I don't know, Burger King or something. You know, you want to get that relevant social proof. But I love social proof in an email. I love the question. I think that's a different way to do the soft CTA. It's not too aggressive. It's not asking for the meeting. It's basically asking like, do you have any of the pains that I've mentioned before? I love digging for pain. Another Justin Michael and Patrick Joyce special is the idea that you are, as a prospector, a vampire, and you have to be invited to cross the threshold. You know how vampires aren't allowed to walk into a house unless they're invited. And you only will be invited to pitch if you've nailed that pain. So if you've identified those pains, you've dug them up for that prospect, and they go like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, that rings a bell, then you've been invited inside and you can do your pitch. So I love digging for that before. So I would even love to see a question like is at the bottom, a question digging for pain maybe earlier in the email too. But I love the ideas behind this one from Frankie.
Yeah, I totally missed the subject line, a cold email. That's I think the favorite subject line I've seen in a long time. Just like straight up calling it out. When I heard somebody say, you know, they're calling out that this is a cold email, I thought they were referring to that first line. So I love that just straight up, this is a cold email. Incredible. We got a question from chat. Joe is saying, I'd love to see a call to action personally, like a link to book a demo, make it easier for the prospect. Maybe feel the opening line is drawing away from that message or from the key message. And Frankie's saying the subject line is my highest open rate. Well, thank you so much for sharing, Frankie. We're all going to steal that and totally wreck your stats. So I apologize, but I'm also grateful. But Jed, Sarah, I'm curious, what do you think about what Joe is saying in terms of including the call to action, like a link to book a demo?
Yeah, I think the link specifically is something that you want to be cautious about, especially with an initial email. It's been proven that a link impacts your open rates, it impacts your deliverability. So you want to be careful with putting in a link. So if you think to yourself like, okay, what is the purpose of that link? It's to get them to book a meeting. So why would I put a link versus saying like, hey, how's this day at this time? Is it worth the impact on your deliverability to have that link? I understand the idea that you're trying to eliminate friction, and you're saying like, cool, let's make it as easy as possible for that person to book that meeting. You're totally on the right track, but unfortunately that link is going to damage that deliverability. So rather come at it from a different approach where you're making it easy for them to answer a question with a soft CTA, or giving them an option for a time if you do want to go for a more direct CTA. But yeah, link is going to hurt you a little bit. What do you think, Jed?
I agree with you, Sarah. I had to take a lot of the links out of my email tag just because like the deliverability wasn't great. One thing, I know a lot of SDRs and a lot of people have this, like a book a meeting link in their signature. So oftentimes that's there. And so, I mean, the way I look at it is, look, if the pain hit and you really wrote a compelling email, you know, it's not like they're going to just, oh, there's no link, so I'm not going to book a meeting with you. I feel like it's still going to, you know, get across, and it might be more impactful because you focus on the pain and then they'll be asking you for the meeting. But yeah, I try to include like links, images, all those things later on after I've sent them a few emails and I know they've been delivered. But yeah, first email, I try to keep links, images for the most part out.
I think that's such a great piece. So first off, like the focus on email deliverability, the more links you put in your email, the more likely it is to not make it through. That's like we've run multiple tests. That's a fact. I think Salesloft had some really great data in there, but I can't really remember. So we'll track down the link.
You can try the free email grader tool, and I'm sure if you pop a link in there, it'll automatically adjust your percentage. And yeah, Jeremy Donovan's like created an amazing free tool that basically pulls from all that research, all that data from those millions of emails that they've tested. And it's a free tool where you can pop in your template, and according to all the results of that data, the tool will grade your email. So try popping your email with a link and without a link and see what the impact is.
100%. The last thing I'll just add, building on what Joe had mentioned, I like the like book a demo link later on, because maybe you're just trying to make it easy for them. I think the piece that, to my papa's comment about assumptions, when you throw the at least when I see a meeting booking link in there, it's as if this SDR is assuming that I'm the right fit and that I'm interested and that I have time, right? And so it's not that I'm offended. To me, it feels lazy. To me, it feels like you're skipping a bunch of steps. So I personally, I really don't like seeing the meeting links in there. Even if you have one, if you've ever been an SDR that has been under my influence, you'll know that I hate just straight up sending the link itself. If you're actually going to book a demo, I like it when you propose a time or two, preferably like, hey, here's a morning slot, here's an evening slot or afternoon slot. And PS, if neither of those work, here's my demo link, or here's my calendar link. So that's my perspective. Jed, when you're sending out your calendar link, do you ever do anything like that? Or do you just sort of straight up, are you old school? You go text based, or do you send your link?
Yeah, there's two ways I go about doing it. I actually like doing it the way you propose is hey, like, does this time work or will this time be better? And then if neither of those work, here's my calendar link. Sometimes I'll even, just send them a link. If they're open to a demo, I'll be like, great, I sent you a time for next week. Here's the link to reschedule if that time doesn't work for you, or feel free to propose an alternative. That way you don't have to go through the back and forth of, this time works for me, this time works for me. Send them the invite, give them the link to move it around, or just say, propose an alternative.
Very cool.
Yeah, the old placeholder.
Yeah.
It's a good strategy.
Yeah, it creates a little bit of urgency too. You know what I mean? Like, you're saying, no, this time is available, and like, we don't have all the time, available for a demo.
Mm-hmm. Sarah, I know you've got a little experience, and we'll get on to the next template shortly, but I know you've got a little bit of experience with maybe sending calendar invites before you've got the commitment. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so this is obviously, it's something that is like a polarizing strategy, the old unsolicited calendar invite. It's for sure not something that you should not want to put all your eggs in that basket, because you're going to get a lot of negative responses. And the argument against it is that while you may get some positive responses where people actually accept that calendar invite, the people who don't accept it, you've probably completely burnt that bridge. Whereas if you come at them in a less aggressive way, you could probably retarget them at a later point. But what I did for mine is it wasn't completely cold. I asked our marketing team to send me the list of people who had engaged with our content through our newsletter. So people that had clicked on case studies, they clicked on the links so they first of all had signed up for our newsletter, our mailing list, and then they had engaged with the content. And I took those people and sent them an unsolicited calendar invite with the attached email that kind of goes with it, that note that you can add in with Google Calendar, saying hey, I know that this is an unsolicited calendar invite. Here's why. And then I kind of mentioned something around the content, not saying hey, I know you clicked this content, but certain pain point attached to the content that they were reading about. I think this is something you might be interested in. Feel free to decline this, never talk to me again if you think it's not a fit. But if it is, why don't we chat? And then same as you, Jed, saying and if that's not a good time, here's a link to reschedule, or you can propose a different time. And honestly, I think I sent out 12 and I booked had three of those meetings. So super high conversion on that one. It's because it's not truly cold. It's what we call a mid-bound. So it's that it's somebody who hasn't yet come all the way through the inbound funnel, but they have shown interest in us. So I would use it sparingly and cautiously, but it can work.
Yeah, we used it the wrong way in our first experiment, and we just sent it cold, and we got 100% response rate. They were all exceptionally negative, but exceptionally I want to speak to your boss negative. And they were all disappointed to learn that it might have been my idea for him to send all those out. All right, let's jump to the next one here, and let's see so that's Frankie's. All right, and so chat, let me know just before we move on. What have you ever sent cold calendar invites? And let me know. Was it a good experience, bad experience? Did you get any responses? Did everybody kind of give you the finger? So let's have a look at this one here. So this is Lisa's. No subject line that I can see. Does your retail website take more than 3 seconds to load? We explain in a recent article the impact of having optimal performance and why load times ensure customers make purchases. Check it out here. There's the link. We recently helped Hoonigan, a professional motor racing team and a popular apparel brand, with their website speed. I'm happy to further share that what we did for them and discuss ideas for contact company name. Contact first name. What does your calendar look like this week to get up to speed on your digital commerce needs? I like that I got to say, anytime you can work a little bit of a bad pun in there, getting up to speed, that's like almost an automatic winner for me, regardless of the rest of the email. So maybe I'm biased, but Sarah, why don't we start with you and then we'll go to Jed.
Sure. Yeah. So this one, what I really, really like about this email is going for the pain right away. So asking that question, posing it as an open-ended discovery question. So it's like super multi-purpose. It's asking that question. First, you identify if you're talking to the right person, because if the person has no idea about that pain point, they'll be like, not me. And you're covering that base of like asking if you're knocking on the right door. You're going for pain first, which, as we mentioned with the vampire analogy, you've got to get the buy-in on that particular pain before you can pitch the solution. And then third, I don't know, it's just dope. It just gets my attention. I'm sure I had an actual third point, but it's like a good hook for me because I don't have time to read the whole email. The first line is going to tell me whether I should spend my time reading the rest of that email. And so the fact that you've asked a question, you can imagine that a lot of retailers are going to say, yes, it does take longer than 3 seconds to load. They may already think that this is a problem. They may not even know that that's really an issue, but it'll make them think and go like, okay, yeah, but so what? And then they'll read the next bit and then they'll see like, oh, fast load times ensure customers make purchases. Totally makes sense. And then they're thinking like, okay, is there a solution? I should probably explore it. So I think going for the pain right at the top there is like great. I love that. And then, that's definitely the favorite part for me. Love the social proof. As I mentioned, I love a bit of social proof. Again, I'm not sure. It depends who the prospect is here. I don't know that Hoonigan is going to be the perfect social proof for every single prospect. So I don't know that you should templatize your social proof, but definitely like leave the gap and say, we recently helped so-and-so with their website speed, fill that in. But yeah, love the social proof, love going for pain. I think it's a great email. What do you think, Jed?
Yeah, I agree with all your points there. I think it's super like problem and pain focused, which is awesome. That opening line, I've used that in some of my emails. We're just opening up with like a quick like spotlight question or like a pain question, and I think that's obviously super impactful if that pain hits. The last thing that I really like about it though is how you put customer or contact name. What does your calendar look like? I like using their first name, like whether it's in the middle of the email copy towards the end, but not just at the beginning. It makes it feel a little bit more personalized, a little bit more custom when you're using their name later on. So I love that touch. I think Sarah hit all the points. You know what I mean? The social proof is great. You kept it pretty short too. I think this is the shortest one here, which I'm all for. And yeah.
Beautiful. I don't think I've got anything I would add. I mean, maybe shorten up that call to action at the end would be the only thing.
Yeah.
And like increase to, if it was me and I have a terrible sense of humor, I would try and make the pun a little bit more obvious.
Wonder if it even was on purpose. It may not have been.
Might not have been. Lisa, if you're in chat, let us know. I think I saw you earlier.
Did you mean to have a race car pun as your CTA? The one thing I will say though that we're glossing over, and we did talk about it in the last one, is the link. So let's remember that a link is probably going to impact your deliverability, and it's such a strong email, you don't want to hurt it. So if you're going to include something like an article or a case study, save that for a follow-up email. You could probably leave out that little chunk of we explain the impact and just say instead, like fast load times ensure customers buy products. Just have that be your like powerful statement. And then in a couple of emails time, you can provide further context and say like, to that point, here's a case study or here's data on that. But I would take away the link for this one.
I wonder, building on what Sarah's saying, I wonder if you could get rid of that whole piece, like that whole sentence, just we explain blah, 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 and just jump right to like, does your retail website to, does your website take yada, yada, yada. And then we recently helped Hoonigan, improve their X, right? Like you're almost duplicating. And I'm very disappointed to learn that it was an accident, a happy accident, but
Yeah.
I didn't even notice it, to be honest.
I didn't either. A different type of brain, I guess. Not a dad pun brain.
yeah, I'm a dad now. Yeah.
I hear what you're saying, Colin, about like cutting out that section. I do like the power of like fast load times ensure customers make purchases. So I think you should try to keep, if you are going to get rid of that first little section, put that in to the social proof bit. Like we helped Hoonigan increase their speed so that customers made purchases or whatever. Like that's sort of that's the business impact or like the impact on this person if they go with the solution. So I think we should keep that in there, but I agree that you could probably tighten up the email and get rid of some stuff.
I think the question to me in terms of like, can you take it out or not is does your target audience know that already? Right? Like, are you just highlighting something that they know? Like I've heard these, like I've been involved in technical stuff. I'm not involved on an e-commerce at all, but I've read these things. So I wonder if if pointing to the pain might sort of like give them the opportunity to sort of invite you into that conversation. Be like, oh yeah, that's really important to me because, so it lets them sort of frame it up in their own. But anyway, I think these are all things that I couldn't say categorically one way or the other. These are things that I would say great things to test. And I think let's take a jump to the next email because we've got 6 minutes left here. Then we got to get some voting. Rodrigo was asking, why do you say the link impacts deliverability? Because the more links you add, the more that the receiving mail servers, it basically increases your potential like spam score. So every receiving mail server, when you send an email to anywhere, you have a spam score, air quotes here. And if it makes it through, it's usually because it's low and below a certain threshold. Every time you add a link, it increases that score.
Yeah.
All right.
Cool. Okay. Last template
one
here.
This is you, Sarah.
So yeah, this one is from Michael Shane. Subject, not another funding congratulatory mail. Okay. Comes right in with a first name. No hi, just first name. I bet you've been drowning in a lot of congratulatory emails lately. I'm trying not to add to that, but hey, you folks absolutely deserve it. I hate to quote Peter Parker here, but from what I know, with great funding comes great responsibility. As you and your team set out to scale up company, I'm guessing you would want to make sure you make the most out of every dollar spent. If you give me a shot Wednesday at 3 p.m., I would love to unpack an unconventional idea that could potentially help prospect drive more repeat purchases without burning a hole in your marketing budget. Promise I'll leave you alone if you're not impressed. Cheers, Michael.
Jed, why don't you open us up here?
Yeah, I'd love to. I think similar to the first email, I really like how they're kind of calling themselves out in the subject line, not another funding congratulatory mail. What I really like is the call to action here. I'd love to unpack an unconventional idea that could help you drive more repeat purchases. I think that's like a Josh Braun thing. And then obviously that last point, promise to leave you alone if you're not impressed. Kind of like that last little sentence, I think makes it a little bit more of a softer ask and less like invasive, especially for a cold email. So that last two sentences, I think those are great. I think there's a lot of personality out of the three. There's a ton of personality in this one. There's a lot of it sounds very like less just boring regular copy. There's a lot of personality into it, and I think that hits well with the right personas. I think the call to action and just calling yourself out in the subject line is fantastic.
What do you think, Colin?
Yeah, I mean, it made me laugh. The bastardized Peter Parker quote was hilarious. I'm just trying to reorganize my screen here because I've got too many things. I lost my mouse and I've got too many things happening and it's not letting me exit out. Up there. There we go. There, now everybody can see us. Yeah, I think it's playing on the fact that they've just raised a round and demonstrating empathy by saying, I bet you've got 5 other SDRs or 10 other SDRs that have sent you this exact same email. You almost kind of, like you said, it's one of those pattern interrupts that acknowledges, I understand what you're going through. It's just one of those things that kind of communicates that empathy. And I really like that. And I think the sort of not another, X is a really well-used format. There's a really common format that I think people, it's going to feel a little bit more familiar to them. So I love that. Yeah. I think the call to action, I like my calls to action to have a question mark. I do understand what he's doing here by, if you give me a shot Wednesday at 3 p.m., I'd certainly love to see what the data looks like compared to, I haven't tried this one, so I wouldn't say, I can't take any points away. It's just, that's sort of a newer approach. I don't know, have either of you tried that or something like that? Or chat, let me know, have you tried this, if you give me a shot Wednesday at 3 p.m. approach? What do you think? I know.
I've tried the give me a shot approach, but I would take the Wednesday at 3 p.m. and pop it to the end. So I'd say, if you give me a shot, I would love to unpack blah, blah, blah. How's Wednesday at 3 p.m.? So you're not losing any of that content. You're just flipping it around so that you're ending with that question, which is the CTA. Otherwise, Wednesday at 3 p.m. is stuck in the middle of the sentence. And by the time you read to the end of the email, you may not remember what the CTA was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with that. Having a sentence at the end, you can just flip it around, easy fix. I think that's to be honest, I think that's the most impactful part of the email there, because that's where the actual pain is, right? Like that's where Michael's actually bringing up, an unconventional idea to help drive more repeat purchases without burning a hole in your marketing budget. Mm-hmm. That kind of pain wasn't mentioned earlier in the email. What got the reader to that point was the fact that it's kind of quirky, kind of personality in it, and they read to that point. So maybe I would try to put the pain in earlier, just to not lose readers. But I think that's a really strong part of the email.
Yeah, and one last point that I have on this one, because we've talked about Chris Voss and we've talked about Josh Braun. Josh Braun loves to borrow Chris Voss, what's it called, psychology stuff, and put it in the emails. Mm-hmm. That opener of I bet current situation is a Chris Voss and Josh Braun thing to do. It's to like name the negative thing that probably exists already so that you can overcome it, rather than fighting against it in this weird like elephant in the room way. You're saying like, hey, here's the shitty thing that's happening right now. And you can do the same on a cold call. You go like, hey, I know you don't want to be talking to me right now. And they're like, you're right. And then they're more receptive because you've like acknowledged the thing that sucks and moved past it. Whereas if you're just like dancing around it, trying to, get something out of them without acknowledging that it sucks, they're like, but it sucks. I don't want to tell you that stuff. So anyway, I thought I would mention that one. It's a great, that little opener, and just like, acknowledging the like thing that sucks about the circumstances and then going for something is a great approach for email or phone.
Very cool. I hadn't picked up on that. That was a bit of an accusation audit, just right up at the front. I've 100% used that in sales, just live on the phone. Be like, hey, I think when they ask me my opinion, I'm like, well, I think it's awesome, but I'm obviously biased because, yada, yada, yada. Okay, so we've reached the hour. Chat, this is what you've been waiting for. What is your favorite? So we've got Michael Shane. We've got Lisa Chiat. I've seen this name so many times and I've never pronounced it out loud. Chiat. She's probably being like, you guys, your pronunciation of my last name is shit. Yeah.
Were you just like hanging on to that since we read that template?
Just came to me.
Nice.
Or Frankie King. I think if we're handing out awards for different elements, Frankie's got the best subject line, hands down. I love that. Yeah. Jed, what do you? Let's chat. Let's give you a minute. Yeah.
Give chat. You all put your ones, your twos, and your threes, and then maybe on the count of three, we can all put up that many fingers of what we think, and we'll see.
Cool. So let's do a 1 for Frankie. Let's do a 2 for Lisa Chiat, as she's correcting me in the in
nice.
Chat.
Hey, you got it.
And a 3 for Michael Shane.
So exciting.
Mm-hmm.
I'm on the edge of my seat.
Me too. I'm waiting for all these lazy people to get their votes in.
Get your votes in.
All right. So 1 for Frankie, 2 for Lisa, or 3 for Michael. Lisa's not even in here voting for herself. Like, she's responding and correcting me. All right, we'll give it another sort of 30 seconds here to get your votes in. Cast your votes. So again, I'll drag this up so you can have one last final look at the emails here in full screen. So give me a 1 for Frankie. Give me a 2 for Lisa. Or give me a 3 for Michael. Frankie, you're not even voting for yourself? What a gentleman. What a
How
gentleman.
honorable.
All right, let's do the voting here. So we've got a pretty good mix actually, and they're coming in. I think they're colluding just to make it difficult because there's no clear winner. They're obviously all really good emails. So we're gonna do. I'll throw it back into the proper mode here. Okay, we're gonna do 1, 2, 3, shoot. Make sure you hold your number out right in front of you because remember you can't see.
Okay.
There's my hands.
Okay.
That's the box.
Okay, you count us in, Colin.
Okay, we're gonna do 1, 2, 3, shoot.
Oh, hey.
Unanimous! Wow,
Lisa.
Yeah.
crushed it. Jed, why did you pick number 2?
Yeah, well, I thought all of them were great. I think the first one had a great subject line. I think the last one had a really good personality, a cool call to action, and it had a lot of that like kind of psychological, the Chris Voss kind of things applied to it.
Mm-hmm.
What I liked about the second one is that opener was killer. It was the shortest and most like concise, and I think if they also applied those couple ideas that you suggested, Colin, to kind of tighten up a little bit, it'd be a really killer email, even more. So, yeah, that's why I picked Lisa's.
Right on. And Sarah?
Yeah, I feel like Paula Abdul. I love this. I loved that coming in with the pain right off the bat. That's something that I like care about a lot right now. It's something that, now that I'm working with a team of SDRs and seeing this in practice and seeing people, whether it's on the phone or on email, going for that pitch before you get the buy-in, before you know if you're talking to the right person, before like making these assumptions, as we've mentioned time and time again, it just doesn't work. People don't want that to happen to them. So to go for this pain first, that's like you get your invite for the person to read the rest of the email and then allow you to pitch. So I loved, that was my favorite thing. And then totally agree with those points that Jed had as well. Why'd you pick it?
I think I would add Frankie, the best subject line, hands down. I love that. I think the stats would really, give us the true winner. But if we're picking sort of favorites in terms of, that was the sort of piece I was thinking was like, what is my favorite for fun versus what is my favorite in terms of if I was coaching an SDR or if I was an SDR, which one would I send? And I think I used the latter lens of like, which one would I send? So Frankie, I love your cold email. Subject line. I'm 100% going to steal that. And I apologize in advance for when it just craters in effectiveness. Michael, like you made me laugh, and that's something rare in a cold email. So I think that's a huge win there. Yeah, I mean, they were all really great emails. The reason I picked Lisa's was because she gave me $1,000. So you can send that to my Gmail. Yeah. No, I think looking at the data that from our testing, the thing that we found that works the best is the relevance approach. It's not making too many assumptions, and I love that Lisa opens it right up and just says like, "Hey, is this relevant to you?" Right? Because asking that question is gonna put you in the "this is relevant" or "I don't understand" box, and I think that's a phenomenal place to start a conversation. You're not throwing a bunch of like, we do this, we do that, And I also, one thing that I would call out is that it was very clear. There's one case study, and you talk about the case study, and then here's what we did for them, right? And it was very specific. It's a cool brand. And it wasn't too crowded. So yeah, that's why I picked it.
Good job to all three.
All right.
What a cool thing to be able to read these people's emails with all of you guys on live.
That was super fun.
Yeah.
I'm gonna throw, if you're sitting here going, hey, I wonder where, how I can improve some of these. I know has done some writing. He's on Substack. I'm gonna throw a link to his stuff in chat here, so you can follow him. You can hit us up on any of us on LinkedIn. If you got questions, you got comments, you got thoughts. And I did manage to track down the Mapping Call interview that I had mentioned earlier. It was with Phil Keen, and he talked about the top-down, bottoms-up approach. Or sort of bottoms up, top down approach. So you start with the bottoms up. So anyway, that link is into YouTube right now, is in chat right now. The magical part here is we are here all week. So I hope you'll join us. We're here every day, 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, and 10 to 11, we're going to be announcing the winners every day at 11 o'clock. And we are accepting bribes. So hit us up on LinkedIn if you're interested. Jed, thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. It was awesome to check out these emails. There's a bunch of cool little things that I'm going to take for my own outreach. So appreciate everybody that submitted these email templates. And yeah, just thanks a lot, guys.
Cool. And Sarah, any final words for everybody?
No, just, any questions that you have that either went unanswered or anything that pops into your mind, feel free to pop it into that Slack community. We're all in there. We're all checking it at various times. And then, connect with us on LinkedIn. Love to have a chat.
Absolutely. All right. Thanks so much, Sarah. Thanks so much, Jed and chat. Thanks for hanging out with us. I appreciate your input, and to the ones that got it right. Good picking. Gold star to yourselves. And everybody else that participated, you had amazing emails. Thank you so much for sharing. We'll see you all tomorrow.